Oh, this sucks. Get everything ready. Alright. So, doing a quick live stream, just in the lights here. I don't have a whole lot of time, but I wanted to get my weekend update out there with you guys. Weekend. Friday, played some games with Robert. My admech got smashed by his super crazy list of craziness. 2-up saves with 2-up feel no pain, with 2-up invols, with 2-up everywhere. Rerollables. It was horrible. It was horrible. But anyway, so I finished that Rhino. What I was doing, guys. I did a few things with it. Magnetized all that stuff. Let me go. Let me get all the pieces out. I stuffed them all in the back here. They kind of fit. So what did I do? I always put the smoke launchers on and that and all that because I just can't help myself. Did the Hunter Killer missile so I can add that or not. Put the Storm Bolter so I could add that right there. And of course magnetize that all up. And then I was like, I want assault cannons. So I dug through my Bitsy box and look what I did. I gotta put this on. Fix it. That doesn't fit right there. It goes. So I went through my Bitsy box, and look, it made me an assault cannon turn. It can turn. It can't elevate because I had to glue those in tight and stuff. But that worked out for me. Hey Robert. Hey Robert. Give me a call later. I can't do right now because my boys are coming over. Actually, the older boys are supposed to come over. Maybe some reconciliation time tonight. That's why I'm trying to get this done really fast, but I wanted to do that for you guys. Be here for the weekend update because I've been trying to do everything when I'm supposed to do it and keep it going. So, trying to do that. Also, this weekend I did these. I don't know what they are, but I fixed these so I could put them on the side of buildings and maybe make some kind of little turret thing. So, that's cool. I did 2 of them. They're not exactly alike, but they're pretty close. Got the little targeting sensor and the las gun, so I thought that was pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. What else did I do this weekend? Finished my wife's thing. I will get a picture of that on my Facebook, the Stolas JC YouTube web Facebook. I finished her shelving unit in the wall, and it's like 350 bazillion% better than the one that I did for me. But I did mine with a kitchen knife and a circular saw and a wobbly bench. And we went and got all the proper tools for her, so that's how it goes. Sad. Okay, I'm happy again. What else we got to do? What did I do this weekend? I replaced about 70% of my lights in my house with LEDs so far. Been trying to do that, buying a couple each month. Got a few that aren't LEDs, but most of them are LEDs. It's really awesome. LED, and then less power and less bills on the electric bill, more money for plastic space bin. That's what I'm trying. I probably have 4, 8, 12, about 25 more lights to change, 25 light bulbs. You'd be surprised how many light bulbs are in your house when you start going around. Just did the porch and the outside lights, did those, which is great because we leave at least the front corner lights, the floodlights on most of the night. And so it's good that those are LEDs now. They'll use like 10% of the power they used to use, which is great and awesome. Alright, let me check what time it is. Hold on. 6:45. Okay, I just have a few more minutes. Boys are supposed to be here at 7. Might be a big old bang up throwdown. We've been kind of estranged for like about 2 years now, but hopefully, we can start working on that. I know you get to a certain age, especially when you're a guy, and you and your dad kind of just butt heads and stuff. You think you got your own way of going about things. And at least I know for me, I got a little bit older and then figured out I'm an idiot. I'm a complete another idiot. And figure some stuff out until you fix it. So hopefully it's the beginning of us fixing it and stuff. I got my 2017 NRA renewal. Got to do that. Join the NRA again. Go NRA. Other than that, it's all good. I'm trying to think if I did anything else super special this weekend other than get beat in the face by Robert. Thanks, Robert. No, nothing other than that. I don't think I got any painting done. I kind of went on an assembly spree Because right now I'm thinking get everything assembled. And what do I have left? Look. Renegade, so that's 2 knights. Valkyrie. This I'm going to do for orcs. The orc truck. And the Stormhawk Interceptor. So got to get those things done and assembled. And then it'll be base coating and all this stuff up here on the shelves. And Yoda and Darth Vader are going to move to that new shelf I made in the wall over there. And I don't want to pull my cord, then the camera will go, and that will be bad. Yeah, glad to help. Glad to... You mean beating me in the face? Is that what you're glad to help with, Robert? Thanks. That's okay. I have a new plan. I have a new army list. And I know a lot of you watch the Super Bowl, but I watch the ITC Las Vegas Open. It's our Super Bowl, right? I really liked watching that, so I did do that this weekend. Other than that, it's all good. I'm sorry this is super short and I can't spend more time with you, but I gotta get back out there because my wife will get me because there was some stuff I was supposed to do, but I said I have to get this out. Have to. Been doing these weekend update things every week starting this year, and I'm gonna keep going with it. So just give me about 10 minutes, and I've spent almost 6 of it. So, and I can't think of anything else that really. I'm looking all around me at all my pile of stuff that closes in on me until I get it clean. I'll tell you what, one thing though, if you ever buy these from Toys R Us, these toy handcuffs that come in a little police set, don't do it because when your kid breaks it, you can't even glue it back together. You can't pin it. I tried pinning it and gluing it with super glue and all kinds of stuff, and it just won't fix. So don't do that. Alrighty. Other than that, I'll talk to you guys later. I will have another Inquisition video up tomorrow, or at 3 or 3-ish, there or so. And Wednesday we will talk about what we think Edict Beer is going to do with his square terrain challenge and some ideas that we might be able to get a jump start on. I don't know, he said there's going to be some difference. Maybe it'll be a triangle terrain challenge this time. I don't know. Alright, but we're going to definitely try that when it comes. Alright, I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Robert, I will talk to you later. There is a gap in between when I'm talking to the camera and when I can see your chat in the chat thing. So that's why there's a gap sometimes. And all that. But thank you very much for your time. And I'll see you guys later as soon as I push this button over here that says stop stream.